So the plan is to sit on stand number 3, although I need to check out in this wet weather if it's gonna be accessible or not. Luckily I brought my papgooi of niks handy little flask with some hot coffee. Look how beautiful this spot is for a day's fishing. Now, although it's overcast and rainy, I actually enjoy this sort of weather, and I know a lot of people don't, understandably so. But if you are geared up properly, you can fish nicely and enjoy yourself on a day like this. But just look at how beautiful that is. Lekker. I'm going to run you through my approach for preparing my swim before I actually start fishing, and I'm going to do it a little bit different than I usually do. I will explain as I go along. For now, I'm just going to mix a bag of my own special feeder feed. Just going to open up this bag. Now, I usually mix my ground bait at home, and I have done so. The ground bait I'm going to fish with, I already mixed at home. But this stuff, I'm going to use for something else. But I just want to run you through the process. I'm just emptying it in a bucket. As you can see, I'm mixing it with my hand. This ground bait does not take a lot of water, so it's very quick and easy to mix. If you put too much water in this, you will ruin it. So be careful with the way that you do it. You'll see it will quickly form a ball like that. It's quite stodgy. Remember, nothing in this ground bait floats, and that is the most important part. You don't want anything coming off the bottom, especially in this deep water at the river. So that's basically almost done. I'm going to give it about 5 minutes just to absorb some of that water, and then I'll add a small little bit, tiny amount of water again, and then that's done, and then I'll show you part 2. So I've added a little bit more water now. It's about 5 minutes later, and I'm just passing the ground bait through a riddle now, just to get rid of all the lumps, and then obviously to spread the moisture content of the ground bait evenly. Obviously it also creates a nice fine mixture when you push it through. Nice fine texture like that. You can see at the bottom, that is a beautiful ground bait. Nice and sweet and lovely. Now I'm going to show you the part that is going to amaze you. Alright, so I'm actually just going to find a little spot here on top of the bank. You're going to see what I'm going to do now. Literally right here in the bank, on the embankment I should say. Oh, if I don't slip and fall. Okay, so what I'm going to do here on the embankment, we've got some beautiful wet soil, and I'm just going to dig out some of this soil that we're going to use inside the ground bait. Obviously it's better to do this at home, and I've got some beautifully prepared soil at home, which I obviously left at home. So now I'm going to have to do it the hard way, and that is dig it out on the bank. But it's not a problem, it's not going to take too long. I'll show you what we do with the soil in a bit. Okay, so here you can see I've dug out some soil. It's just on top of my riddle, and I'm not going to be too fussy about this. There's the ground bait that I've just mixed. I'm going to literally put this soil on top. I'll explain to you exactly why I'm going to do this in a while, but I'm just going to run it through my riddle, get some soil into that ground bait. Now, the reason why I'm doing this mixture I'm making at the moment is going to be my initial feed. So I'm going to use this to prepare my spot and to start pulling in the fish. But I don't want too much food for the fish. I don't want them to fill themselves up. So I'm not going to go in with just plain ground bait and call the fish in and tell them, hello, here I am. I'm going to use the bait up rod, and I'm going to feed this mixture this mixture does not contain a lot of food because the soil eliminates like half of the food content. So in reality, I'm putting in bait. The fish are going to smell it. I'm going to add lots of chopped worm in here as well, which I will show you just now. The fish are going to smell it. They're going to move into the spot. I'm going to spread it over a wide area, but there's not going to be a lot for them to actually eat. It's just going to be smell. It's like someone starting a barbecue fire, or a braai I should say, and you smell that smoke and you immediately want to get a piece of meat and braai it. So this is sort of the same effect. I'm going to put this in, add lots of smell and color in the water to draw the fish in, but there's actually not going to be a lot of food for them to eat. So when I start fishing with the other mix that I prepared at home in the feeder, and I put that right in the middle of the area where I fed this, the theory is that it's like the cherry on the cake. So I'm going to draw the fish straight to my hook bait, straight to my feeder, and hopefully catch more of them. So that is the mad theory behind putting soil in my initial ground bait mix. Okay, so there you can see I've just pushed the soil through a nice pinky riddle. It's nice and fine, and I'm just going to mix it into the ground bait. Now, the ratio that I do this is about 50-50, and I'll do even more for this sort of style, because I want to add a lot of these feeders into the shrimp, create a nice big area for the fish to feed over and graze over, but I don't want them to have a lot of food. So that you can see there, 50-50 mix of soil and ground bait, but I'm going to add even more to make sure I don't overfill the fish from the start. Okay, so this is going to be the final product. There's some more soil in there, and I'm just going to mix it all together. I'll show you what it looks like in a while. 50-50 soil and ground bait. Crazy, eh? But if you think about it, it makes absolute sense. You don't want to fill up the fish. We just want them. I mean, this is a massive river. We just want those fish to come closer. We want to call them in. We want to feed a bit. We're going to take the feeding rod, put a big feeder on, and feed a lot of bait. It's not actually a lot of bait. It's actually just a load of soil with a little bit of bait in between. And that's going to draw those fish in and call them in from everywhere and tell them, hello, come here, we want to catch you. So that's the theory. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. But there is the finished mix, 50-50 ground bait and soil. I hope you can hear me well. I do have the microphone here because they decided to come and mow the lawn right next to me. But anyway, the next step, you can see I've got one of these choppers, and I'm just adding some worms. I've got some in there already. Just going to add a bit more. Don't worry if there's a little bit of soil that goes in with it. These blades are blunt anyway. And I'm just going to add the lid. Obviously these things are nice and quick, so I'm just going to pull this string a couple of times, going to chop the worms to an absolute mush. The finer it goes, the better it is, because we don't want any food, we just want smell. I think that's a nice sloppy worm mixture now. As you can see, looks like nothing, looks like a load of soil, but I promise you this smells incredible for the fish. I'm going to add this whole lot into this soil and ground bait mixture, mix it through, and that's what we're going to use to feed a nice big area and to draw in those fish. Here we go. So this is my swim for today. I've actually never sat in this area. This is quite far down to the left of where I usually sit, but what's nice about the Vaal River is whenever you go 100 meters left or right of where you usually sit, it's like fishing at a totally different venue. Here you can see my setup. Today I've got a couple more rods than I usually pack out. The middle rod, which is what we're going to focus on just for now, is actually my feeding rod. You can see it's loaded with braid. You can see the spool is underfilled, which is always a great idea for braid. Do not fill that spool with braid to the lip because you will get wind knots and tangles. And I'm going to use that with a nice big feeder. Let's get it out of here quickly. Show you. There she is. Nice big feeder. And that mix that I made with the soil, the ground bait, the chopped worms, I'm going to actually feed that with this feeding rod on the spot that I've measured out there around the measuring sticks at exactly 15 meters. That's where I found the crease of the slope that goes down. And to this I'm just going to add, look at these babies, beautiful fresh live maggots just in some maize meal, and I'm just literally going to add just a sprinkling of this. I just want a couple of freebies for the fish there, just to start getting used to what they're going to be eating. As you can see, not a lot at all. I mean, this is a big bucket of bait that I'm going to empty. Remember, it contains mostly soil, so I'm just going to mix this through, and this is what I'm going to empty this whole bucket. Now that might seem like a lot, but it's not actually going to be, because there's not a lot of food content in this. Look at that. Just a couple of maggots here and there, a piece of corn, little bit of ground bait, obviously that smell of the chopped worm, but this is what's going to get the fish into my area and keep them busy. So I'm just busy feeding that load of bait out of this big bucket with all the soil, not really even pressing that in there hard. I want some of it to come out as it drops down through the water column. Takes about 12 to 14 seconds to reach the bottom, so some of it I will actually let it go down to the bottom, empty it on the bottom, others just halfway at like 6 counts, and some of it even on the top. I want to spread out that bait. I want those fish to know that we're here. I want to call them in so that they can start grazing over this wide area. I'm also not going to put this down the same hole, like not too accurate casting. Obviously try and hit the clip, but try and cast some of the feeders a bit upstream, some of it a bit more downstream, little bit short, maybe take the clip off, add a meter or so, just create a nice big area for the fish to graze over. You can see this reel that I've loaded with braid does its job absolutely perfect. Because the braid is so direct, it's easy to get the bait out. You don't have to, well, you know that when you strike the feeder, the bait's going to empty immediately. You can see there, hit the clip, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, strike it out. So I know that bait has all come out of the feeder half depth. So any fish that's up in the water, already this is going to sort of entice them to follow the bait down, go down to the bottom, where we're obviously going to try and catch them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just a couple of strikes and it's out. Nice stiff rod this is. I've actually custom built this rod. It's a 9-foot feeding rod. So I know it's capable of handling heavy work, big feeders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice big reel with a braid, very important. Just helps you to get the job done quickly. This bucket is almost half as we speak, so it's not going to take you too long, even in a competition, to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there we go. I'm just going to continue like that, empty this bucket. Then I know I've got a nice area for the fish to come in and graze over. So one very important thing when you want to do this heavy feeding style is that you're gonna need proper gear. You cannot do this. I would not recommend doing this with a normal feeder rod. Get yourself a proper feeding rod, something that's stiff, that's got a lot of backbone, big guides so the braid can just fly through it easily, and do it with that. Also a nice big reel, just to help with retrieving the braid quick and easy. But you will break feeder rods if you try and do this with normal fishing rods. Can be done, but I definitely will not recommend it at all.
I've been fishing for about an hour now, and I've had a couple of fish, but it's been very strange. For the last 40 minutes or so, I haven't had a fish, and I do have my concerns about why. I do have my reasons why I think I didn't have a bite. And I think I'm going to change something now, and I'm going to obviously show that to you, but I've just made the last cast before I actually change. I know this is probably pixelating a little bit because I'm zoomed in so much on that rod tip, and it's a bit difficult to see because the shade of the tree is creating like a shaded line on top of the water, so it's difficult because the tip of the rod is right on top of that line, that light and dark segment on the water. But I just want to sort of try and get some of the action that I've been getting on the tip just on screen here, because every single cast I am getting indications. There I just got a little indication, and I've been getting plenty of indications. Every single cast I get indications, but I'm not actually catching fish, which is weird, because if you think about it, obviously everything you do is right because there's fish in your swim. They're coming in, they're eating the bait, they are moving around, there's a nice indication again, but I'm not catching anything, so it's weird. I think it's got to do with the fact that there's a bite now that looks on actually, and it's not. It's actually not on. So you can see that was a super aggressive sort of bite, and there's no fish on there. So I'm going to make a little change. I'm going to keep the rig and the bait and everything exactly the same. I'm even going to keep on using this same. Let me just zoom out a bit. I'm just going to use this same hook bait. I'm not even going to change it. It's just a worm tail and a maggot. I'm just going to hook it onto my rod here. So I'm going to use the same feeder, the same rig, that small little plastic open ender, the same free sliding rig, the same hook bait. I'm going to keep everything the same, but the big change is going to be with my ground bait. Now let me just show you something quickly. At the moment I'm feeding this ground bait, which you can see it's quite crumbly. Although it's nice and wet, it's not really making a cloud, it's just crumbly. And the difference from today versus the previous session that I've caught so many fish here is that I'm actually feeding the particle mix whole. I haven't actually put it in a blender, chopped it all fine, made a slop out of it. I'm putting it in just like this, and you would think that it's fine. Well, you've just seen on the tip of the rod that we're getting indications there's fish in this room, but they're not actually taking our hook bait. So I'm just thinking that this is too crumbly, and I'm going to change that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little hand blender, and that's why it's so important to have one of these things and bring it with. And I'm going to empty this whole bucket of particle. Now this is just a mixture of like seeds and stuff, like hemp seed and whatever else. Just get everything out of there because that's where the mechanism obviously needs to go in. Alright, so after having a bit of a workout, I think we're done. And look at the difference now. Already you can see this is so much sloppier, much more oily. It's going to create a cloud in the water. It's just going to be so much more attractive, but it's not actually going to feed the fish. I think the previous mix of that I've been using, it's just been feeding the fish too much. So let's put this in the bucket, and then I will show you how I'm going to actually apply it into my ground bait. Okay, so here you can see I've just blended it, and look at the difference. I would have liked it a bit more finer, but obviously I'm limited with the hand blender, so whatever, it is what it is. At least in my opinion it's a lot better now. It's a lot sloppier. It's going to cloud up way more than the previous sort of mix I had here. You can see this is more the consistency that I'm after. Look at this, it's almost creating like a paste, like a sloppy ball of paste, and I'd like that to be even wetter still. So I'll add a bit more of this, and I'm also going to add a little bit of water to this blended seed mix in a while, just to loosen it up even more. Obviously it's also going to help to not stick on my hands that much, but just to show you guys what a difference. I know this is going to make a massive difference, and now I'm going to feed this sloppy, pasty sort of mix. Check this out now. This is totally different. It's the same, it's exactly the same ingredients, but just the consistency of this is totally different, and I can guarantee you it's going to take a couple of casts, maybe 5 or 6 of this, and we're going to start catching some fish. So let's put it in and see what happens. Okay, so this is the first cast with that sloppy mix that I've just made and shown you. And we'll see now whether it's going to make a change. I don't think it's going to make a change on the very first cast. I think it's going to take a couple of casts. There's already a nice indication on the tip right there. But I think it's going to take a couple of casts before it's going to make a massive difference. And then I will obviously show you that as well. I can't show everything in one go, otherwise the video will just be too long. But as you can see there, or I hope you can see that, I am getting quite a few indications, and there's definitely a lot of fish in the swim. So it's just a matter of figuring out how to actually catch them. And usually by doing this, making the ground bait sloppier and more pasty, for some reason it works and you just start catching more fish. So there's another nice indication. You can already see it's looking a bit better. Indications are more positive. The tip is almost rattling a bit, which shows you the fish are getting a bit more aggressive. And it's only a matter of time before they actually pick up the hook bait. On the very first cast, I kid you not, just after I've switched off the camera, there's the muddy hooked in the mouth. Unbelievable what a difference it makes. And you can actually see the ground bait still in the feeder because of its pasty consistency. It's actually in the feeder still, which is just incredible. Check this out. The first cast after I made that change, I mean, I've been sitting here for 45 minutes. I couldn't catch a fish. I've been getting plenty of indications. I could not buy a fish to take my hook bait. And look at this, muddy hooked in the mouth, obviously keeping me busy now. Typical muddy. Come on, you beauty. Nice big one as well. Nope. No, don't do that. They swim straight into the bank trying to get rid of the hook. And there we go. Come on. Almost. Not yet. There we go. Perfect. In the net. First cast on that sloppy mix that I've made. And here's the result. Look at this. Would you believe it? Look at that. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Look at that, guys. Hooked perfectly in the mouth. Typical muddy. They would not let you film them. The very first cast on that sloppy mix. And look at that, muddy hooked properly in the top lip. Absolutely awesome result. So after catching that muddy, I'm just going to put on a fresh worm hook bait. I'm just nipping off the head and then inserting the hook in there where I've nipped the head off, threading it onto the hook and over like that, so it doesn't slip out of my hand. And then I do like to pull it all the way up onto the line, just so it's out of the way. Then I can take a maggot. I like to hook one maggot through the thin end and then hook another maggot through the thick end, just to keep those two maggots from going over the tip of the hook. And then that tail of that worm, remember, if you leave it long, you're going to miss a lot of bites. So I'm just going to nip it off like there. And then that, in my opinion, is a great hook bait for catching muddies. There we go, that looks nice and positive. Let's just drop back again. There we go, there we go, there we go. A lot of indications. That's why I'm fishing a small feeder. If I was to fish a big feeder, I'd just have too many fish in the swim. There's already too many in the swim, as you can see. Look at all the crazy indications. The tip is rattling, it's going madness, and you can't get a bite. So cut back on the amount of feed if this happens. Switch to a smaller feeder, switch to a paste sort of style bait, and then you'll definitely catch more. I think that could be on, although I would like it to go round a bit more positive, like that. Oh my goodness, there we go. That took 55 seconds, but that is a proper bite on camera. I'm sure you'll agree with me, if I struck earlier on those smaller indications, I wouldn't have had this fish now, because I waited for this bite. It developed, I got a nice positive. I mean, you can't miss when they pull the tip around like that, almost pull the rod in the water. And again, okay, this is a yellow fish, so that's probably why. But again, the bait's still in the feeder, which results in all these positive bites. So the bait's not coming out as easily as it did when it was crumbly, that ground bait mix. So now the fish are forced to actually take the hook bait. And I thought I would show you that. But a nice little yellow. I've had 2 of them already. I'm sure there's a lot more muddies in the swim. Let's see. There we go. Nice little yellow hooked in the corner of the mouth. Perfect. Wow. Look where these fish are turning, right under my feet. I'm fishing 15 meters out, which is at the bottom of the slope. There's another little nice indication. I'm just waiting for this to develop nicely. Look at that, look at that. There we go, and that's another fish on. Look at that. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant fishing. And I think this is a muddy because it's nice and heavy. It's going to take me into the clip. Oh, there we go, there we go. Oh, shit. I don't want to take out the clip, but I have to. Let's put it back. I'm going to try and get this fish under control. I think this is a muddy. Oh, it's a nice carp. You can see this Map Parabolics Ultra 2 rod, the one that I've shown in the review at home. It's actually a lot stiffer than I thought it's going to be. And although it's a parabolic action blank, there's a lot of power in the back here. You can see that just by the way this rod is bending. Look at this fish, it's just taking line. No, 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 no. Don't do that. We've got a proper fish on here, guys. This is a proper muddy or a carp. I have caught a carp already, so could be a carp. Luckily this soft rod is controlling this fish beautifully. Oh, the river is just amazing. You never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're catching. It could be a catfish, it could be a carp, it could be a big grass carp, it could be a big muddy, which is always lovely to catch. And there's some underwater obstructions that you got to look out for. Obviously these trees that's hanging in the water has got some more branches underneath the water where the fish always head to when they get hooked. But if you're lucky and you get them under control, then you can land some spectacular specimens of fish. Let's see what this is. It's very difficult to film this all and get it all on screen and still control the fish. This is something weird. I don't know if this is a muddy. It's fighting way too aggressive. I think this might be a carp or something, I don't know, let's see. Wow, it's darting all over the place like crazy. Fishing a light wire hook, Preston N30. I can't pull too hard, otherwise I'm going to bend open the hook. But the hook is still strong enough to land big fish. I've caught some big fish on these hooks with a pole. As long as you play them nicely, not try and pull their heads off, you will actually land the fish. I'm going to just take my time with this fish. It's going to keep me busy for a while. Look at the bend in that rod. Absolutely incredible. Incredible stuff. Oh, that's a nice fish. That is a beautiful fish. You can see I'm playing this fish on the back wind, so I'm not playing it on the drag. Although this reel has got a super smooth drag, I do prefer to just give the fish line by just letting it go like that as soon as it wants to swim off. And then just, oh, that is a muddy hooked in the side. But we'll take him. There we go. Another muddy landed in the net. Okay, so I'm going to attempt this. And it's probably going to be a massive failure. But you can see this muddy was never hooked in the mouth. It's a massive big muddy, but look where it's hooked. Right there in the pectoral fin. It's not actually even hooked, guys. It's just lassoed. Look at that. There it goes. There it's loose. It's literally just lassoed. Check that line on its head where the line actually dug into its skin. That is just absolutely crazy. But nonetheless, it's a great, beautiful muddy. And it's a good sign that they're starting to move into the swim. So I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing and keep on catching these babies. I'm just quickly going to make a change to the hook and the hook line that I'm using. Not that I think there's anything wrong with the hook that I was using, although I do think a heavier hook in the form of this, you can see there it's an Ultra number 8 on AccuPower 016. Okay, so the hook line is not thick by any means. I'm still fishing nice and sensitive, but I just feel like a heavier wire hook can sometimes be a bit more positive. It can just lay on the bottom. It doesn't flutter off the bottom as easily, and then obviously that will hopefully in turn lead to more positive bites, because now the fish has got to commit to actually pick up that heavier hook. Also, it's a bit bigger obviously, so in theory if it goes in, it shouldn't be able to come out that easily. But let's see if I can prove that to you. So I'm going to go back out now again, just with that bigger hook. Like I explained to you, I think sometimes it's better to have that heavier wire hook just to make sure it actually doesn't flutter as much. That same paste consistency ground bait. There's the hook bait, just a worm lengthways, 2 maggots at the front. And then just cast it out to that 15-meter spot. And there we go. Pump the camera and all. And that is a fish on there. You can see how that tip is just rattling. When you see that tip rattling, that's when you know it's got the hook in its mouth. It doesn't know how to get rid of it, and it's game over for the fish. What do we have here? Looks like a small muddy. You see that ground bait still in the feeder. Just stressing the importance of how you should always play around with the mix. Suddenly I'm catching fish every single cast, whereas before I couldn't get a bite for 45 minutes. There's a smaller muddy, but it's hooked properly in the mouth. Look at that, the ground bait's still in the feeder. Let's see if we can show you that. bring that feeder down here. Yeah, look at this. Ground bait still inside the feeder, and now we're catching them every single cast. Amazing. It's been raining very hard, and it's been really hard to film this session so far. But apart from that, I've been stuck under the umbrella right there on my box, and I've caught a lot of fish. It's been going really well. The fishing is awesome. The fish are very active at the moment. They're feeding nice. So I'm gonna set up the camera just to try and get some nice footage of the bites and me striking into the fish. But it's going really well. The rain has stopped now for a little while, allowing me to just get this camera out here and set it up a bit. I'm getting so many indications at the moment. It's insane. The tip of the rod is just going mad, and it's actually quite difficult to know when to strike. But as always, when in doubt, just leave it. Don't be hesitant to pick it up, even if it starts rattling like crazy. That's been the best advice I've given to myself, because every time I've tried to strike when it feels like there should be a fish on, I've either lost the fish, like foul hooked it properly, or I've just missed the bite completely. So I don't pick up unless it like literally does that. Like it literally almost pulled the rod into the end of the rest here, and that is then a sure telltale sign that obviously there's a fish on the end, because it's literally swimming away with your line. So I know it sounds obvious and stupid, but believe me, you are super tempted to strike at all those indications, especially if it's so positive. I just think that there's so many fish in the swim at the moment that they are just competing and going crazy whenever there's a line in the water. My big old friend Jumbo Willems, who sadly passed away last year in November, he always said his first love is catching muddies on the feeder. And you know what? I can absolutely see why. If you want to have fun, then you're not going to get much more fun than catching muddies on the feeder, honestly. It's so good. It literally is so good. There's another one, nicely hooked in the mouth. They are so lively, these fish. There's another beautiful one. Not the biggest, definitely not the smallest either. It's just great fun. Jumbo, that one's for you, my friend. I'm sort of having to improvise around my umbrella here. Let me tell you one thing, it's absolutely terrible doing feeder fishing under an umbrella. Pole fishing under an umbrella, awesome. Feeder fishing, not so awesome. But with a little bit of encouragement from yourself, you'll find a way to get around it. And I must say, I'm very glad that I've packed my umbrellas. I've actually packed 2 for today, just to be sure, because it's been raining relentlessly, biblical, and without the umbrella I would have been home by now. But it's been keeping me dry. It's a bit of a hassle to fish around it, but it's been keeping me dry, and I'm super glad that I can still fish, because the fishing is just amazing. It's awesome. Look at that, there we go. That rod is literally, whoa, 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 whoa. Come on, I don't want to take that clip out. Don't do that, turn around. Oh, that is crazy. I should take that clip out, but I'm lazy and I don't want to. So now I'm just hoping that the fish will actually turn and come back. This fish is fighting like crazy. This fish is going all the way to the left. It's definitely trying to snag me up. Now it's trying to do me in the bank. How can you not love muddy fishing on the feeder in the Vaal River? This is incredible. Look at me, I'm having to stand up to control this fish. Come on, you beauty. Where are you going? Come this way. It's swimming into my keep net, guys. I know you can't see this from that angle, but it's trying to do me in my own keep net. Come on. There we go. I know I'm holding it a bit funny, but there we go. Another beautiful big muddy. As you can see, they are thick and fast right now. And I'm just hooking the worm a little bit different. So I'm just going through the very tip of the worm, come back around, through again, like that. Then I'm nipping it off about 2 centimeters long, and then I do the same with the rest of the worm. Nip it off 2 centimeters long. So I've got 2 little tails, and then just have to add a maggot at the front. I've noticed that, weirdly enough, a massive big hook bait on a big hook definitely hooks them better. So there you can see 2 worm tails, 2 maggots. It just gets me more positive bites. Like every time I try a smaller hook bait or a sort of nicer little presentation, I just foul hook fish. That previous fish I hooked in the fin and there was only 2 worms on there, no maggot with it. So I'm just having to cast past my umbrella. There we go, that's perfect on the spot. Look at all those indications on the tip, it's going mad. But if you strike at those, you're definitely going to miss a lot of bites and foul hook a lot of fish. So like I mentioned earlier, I need to wait until it literally pulls the rod. Not even that is good enough to strike at. It's going again, it's going again, it's going mad. Look at that. I'm waiting for it to do that, basically. You can see the difference in the bites. I literally wait for it to pull the rod round before I strike. And that's been so important. The length of the leader, always very important because it helps you to guide where the fish actually is. I'm using lines that's like sort of naturally colored, so I can't really see the line. I prefer that because it doesn't catch my eye. But then I need that leader knot. As soon as it comes through the rings or the guides on the rod, I can hear the sound that it makes, and I know the fish is almost ready to be lifted, or the rod is ready to be lifted, so I can see where the fish is and then actually go to net it. So I never make it longer than 2 rod lengths. This fish is trying to do me again right here in front. Come on. This is incredible fishing, guys. If you have never fished with a feeder before, I encourage you to try it. It's amazing. Look at that. Another beautiful muddy in the net. Look at this. Absolutely brilliant. I'm going to show it to you now. If it's going to let me lift it up. Look at that. Come on. Another beautiful fish. They are definitely camera shy. They do not like cameras and human beings. There we go, look at that. Beautiful Vaal River muddy on the feeder. Mwah. Alright, so I've come on the end of another epic 5-hour session, although it's been raining absolutely the whole day. I've actually enjoyed this session so much, and I've caught quite a big bag of fish. Look at that. Oh, some really nice big muddies. Just look at them. Look at that one. There's another one, a smaller one. There's so many of them in here. I've caught a couple of yellows, and I'm trying to get the carp. Look at these muddies. There's just so many of them. I've caught a beautiful little mirror carp. Look at him. Wild mirror carp. Absolutely pristine condition. And apart from that, a whole net full of muddies. Just been super enjoyable day. And I'm sure the things that I've shown you today is actually going to help you if you want to try the feeder, if you want to fish the Vaal River, anywhere that you want to fish for muddies. The tips that I've given you, I'm sure, are going to help you to put more of these fish in your net like I've done today. Yeah, I don't know how many there is. I haven't counted them. I don't really care. There's a whole bag full of them. I mean, just look at that for a bag of fish. 5-hour session with a feeder. Absolutely beautiful. Full of muddies, some yellows, and obviously that nice carp that I've already shown you. There we go. Thank you, beautiful fish. Oh, there was even a little, I forgot about him. There was even a little catfish. Okay, so I've continued fishing for about 2 hours after I've actually stopped my video. And look what I've just caught. A beautiful big catfish. Look at this one. What an absolute beauty on the Map Parabolix Ultra 2. So that video I did, that review I did of the rod, that I said we're gonna test it in Africa. Well, I think this is the ultimate test. Look where that little hook is sitting. Amazing. Ultra 2 and a nice big catfish. There we go. I estimate him about 5.5 kilos. Nice fat belly on him, maybe pushing 6. He's quite heavy, I must say. Beautiful catfish. I put him back. Thank you, Mr. Catfish. That was a great fight on the ultralight gear.